Hi everybody, if I'm there. I'm just checking in another page. As always, say hi if you're there. It takes a little bit of time for your comments to come up for me, but there I am. Good. And so if I click that, turn the sound down, then I can see comments as you make them. Hi, Barbara's the first one whose comment I see. I'm a little bit early, so I'm just going to let everybody arrive. Hi, Cherry, Angela, Liz. This bit must be really boring when you're watching the recording, when you see me just saying hello. Hi, Libby, Liz, Dora, Anita, Miranda. Hi, Zelda. Oh, I didn't know you were in Colchester. I've never been to Colchester. Hi, Joe. Oh, these comments whiz by so fast. Hi, Lila, Laura, Linda, Cheryl, Lynn, and I see so many familiar names, and now I'm getting to know all the unfamiliar names as well. Hi, Susan. I love your name. Susan Colours is the perfect name for an artist, isn't it? Deborah, Bina, Valerie, SJ. It's Alice's private view. What going on at the same time? It's Alice's private view. Is that this evening? Hi, Maggie, Dee, Anita, Joan, Lynn, Joanne, Margaret. So nice to see everybody coming in. I'll just give it another minute or two as you all join. I don't know if Facebook lets everyone all pile in at once or if it filters people through. I'm not sure. Now, I have questions that were in, I checked last an hour ago and put all the questions into a document so that I can go through and answer them. And I've seen that I've got some more come in since then, so I'll try to get to those if there's time at the end. If not, I'll come in and comment on them as usual. Wisconsin, California, Florida. Lovely to see everyone coming in. Rockport, Massachusetts. No, our weather was not as nice as yours. Or is it Rockport, Maine, isn't it? Is it Rockport, Massachusetts? I actually used to do business with somebody in Rockport, but I never knew which state it was in. Rainy North Wales. Yes, it's rainy Yorkshire today. I've just been out for a wet and cold dog walk. We got very soaked, but my dog's fallen asleep in the warm now. Thanks, Lorna. I'm feeling much better. I think I was just tired. I don't think I even had a cold. Just plugging in this microphone so you might hear me better. Let me know if you could. Somebody just say yes if you can hear me still, because sometimes this microphone can play up, but it does make the sound a bit better. Still waiting to hear if anyone can hear me because I think I'm delayed on the comments. Lynn question, did I miss the acrylics for beginners? Yes. Every email I send out now, at the bottom, good, Deborah, you can hear me. Every email that I send out now with a lesson, at the bottom, scroll right down to the end, there's a list of everything that's happened so far. And I'm doing that every day and updating it. So whatever your last email was, if you check down there, you'll see the beginner's guide to acrylics linked. Sue's been at the supermarket. We'll just rush back. It's weird at the supermarket now, isn't it? It's just a weird experience. I'm trying to avoid it and getting deliveries as much as I can. Hi from Toronto. Liz from Norfolk. Everyone can hear me loud and clear. Good. So as you all come in, you are welcome, Jan. Sheila's here. Sue's in wet Shropshire. I think the whole of England is wet, isn't it? And I don't know about Scotland. I know the whole of Wales is wet today. I heard that from somebody. Hi, Lou from Florida. It won't be. And Darlene from Florida. Kennebunkport, Maine. Now that's where the Kennedys used to have their compound, isn't it? Maybe probably still do, for all I know. rainy Ealing, West London, sunny southeast. Oh, so Staffordshire, Oxfordshire, all coming in all around the world. Lovely to see. Right, let me pull up my notes. Now, always when I do these things, I know that I don't have to plan too far ahead because questions will come up that give me an opportunity to talk about what I want to talk about. They always do. And so the last lesson, Thursday's lesson, the ill-fated lesson that went out early, was about the rush for results and why this gets in the way. And then I've had all sorts of questions by email, but then one in the group I thought I'd bring up specifically. And when I pick out someone's post to talk about, I'm not trying to single that person out in any way. It's usually that person has said something which I know lots of other people are feeling, and so it's helpful to take that post and answer it because it'll speak to a lot of other people. And what I find interesting is the lesson was called Avoiding the Rush for Results, and the video that I made explaining why we were doing what we were doing was all about why it's so important not to always try and make a good painting. And yet this comment or this question that came in on the group from Barbara proves how very hard it is to let go of that. Barbara had done both parts of Thursday's challenge, the painting with the wrong tools and the wrong colours, and then done it again, but she hated them both, and she could see it might be useful on occasion to use something other than brushes, but she finds it hard and not joyful. She thinks her 7-year-old granddaughter could do almost as well. She doesn't think this course is doing her any good. She just finished a commission, so obviously you've got good skill, Barbara, and they thought it was great, but I'm losing confidence, not gaining it. And I think this is such a great question because, and I don't know if this was the case for you, Barbara, but some people came into this course wanting to learn techniques. They were maybe real beginners and just wanting to learn how to paint. And that isn't what this is about. In fact, it's about the opposite, really. I'm not teaching techniques. And if you were happy doing what you were doing before and just took this course to pick up some extra knowledge, this might be really disappointing because I'm actually trying to disrupt things, not make incremental improvements. So I thought it would be helpful to clarify who I think my teaching is helpful for and who I think it's not. And because I do not want to destroy anybody's confidence or make anybody unhappy. That's the opposite of what this is about. So I want to help artists who want to paint more honest, personal, and authentic work than they have been making. So if this course is for you, you will be someone who feels like there's more inside you that's not coming out. Doesn't matter if you're experienced, beginner, 40 years professional, you will feel like I've got more inside me and I need to tap into it. I'm frustrated with where I am. I can't help you if you want to make nice paintings the way you have been doing, but a little bit better. That I'm not the right teacher for that. Whether it doesn't matter if you're abstract or realistic, I can help you if you want to make something more unique and authentic than you were making. But what that means is making some bad paintings. That means taking risks, taking chances, pushing into new things and learning new things. And that inevitably means that what we make doesn't look as good as what we were making before. And I was just recording a new podcast today with Alice, and we've called it Growing Pains. And we were talking about growing pains in our own careers, times when we've had to do things where we make mistakes, but we were talking about it in our art too, when we have to make ugly paintings to get somewhere. That is part of making personal, authentic work. So if you want to do that, then I don't think, I'll boast now, I don't think there's anyone better at that than I am. But if you want to if you want to just go into your room, paint, and come out with a nice result every time, what I'm teaching will get in the way of that and ruin it. And this course is about finding your joy. So if this is not making you joyful, if your joy actually comes from sitting quietly, making a painting from start to finish that you're proud of, and then selling it to someone or keeping it and putting it on the wall, you don't need to be here. You really don't. And this is just going to make you unhappy. And I really don't want that. But pushing forward and making something more authentic does mean making bad paintings. I make tons of them all the time. You cannot stretch and learn without making mistakes. And so my goal with this course is to get you to the point where you can feel comfortable to experiment and not worry about whether it's good or bad. So with the exercise with different tools, it's not about it being useful to occasionally use something other than brushes. It's about it being exciting to explore what's possible. And to do a painting which, won't turn out to be your best. How could it? If I've asked you to use the wrong colours and the wrong tools, it couldn't possibly be a good painting. I mean, some people do manage it because they've actually turned out to have a natural flair for a different kind of work than the work they're making now. But for many of us, we just make a mess when we try and do new things. But it's about discovering one or two new things. Wow, I love that colour and I never thought I'd like that colour. Or I've discovered that I actually really like a palette knife, or I've discovered that I hate palette knives. I'm never touching one again. It's about testing out new things to identify what feels good and what doesn't. What got in the way for many people, though, is if you are trying to do that and make a nice painting, of course you'll fail. Of course you'll be frustrated. Because it's like me asking you to make a nice painting with both hands tied behind your back. You're using the wrong colours and the wrong tools, and you're still putting pressure on yourself to be good. And that's not what that exercise is about at all. And actually, when I'm looking through the Facebook group, not necessarily just this time, in the past when I've done this course, I'm kind of skimming past people if they've made really professional looking paintings. That's great, but I'm looking for the risks and the discoveries and the excited tone in the post that says, "Oh, I've never tried this before and I did it and it really was great," or the frustrated tone that says, "I tried all these different tools and I realized I really don't like big paintbrushes. It just drives me mad." Because it's a clear decision. It's a clear, I know what I like, I don't want to ever do that again, and this is me. Like that song, "This is me." All we want to do is go step by step towards this is me. So to recap back, if this is me is very precise painting that results in a nice painting at the end of it, then you are going to be unhappy with these exercises. They're going to stress you and make you tense, and you probably shouldn't do them, because all I want is for you to do what makes you happy. If that's what makes you happy, then you don't need me and you've already got it all sorted out. So I want everybody who's listening to this to perhaps at the moment, before you get tomorrow's assignment, because that's a doozy, I want you to question why you're here and what you want to achieve with your work. I'm really deadly serious about art. It's my life. I love it. I want to help artists to get where they want to get to, of all levels and all types and all styles. But I have no interest in corralling, pushing, persuading, forcing people to get to where they don't want to be. So this is a personal responsibility thing where we look into ourselves, we ask, why did I come here? Did I come here because I just thought it was going to be something different? Then there's no shame in going and not carrying on. Or am I getting stressed and tense because I'm actually getting to the point of changing and learning and growing, and that's difficult? That's two different things. And this is actually what Alice and I's discussion was about. I'm just realizing today was about knowing when to quit because something's just not right for us, versus knowing when we're just in the hard part of something, and if we keep going, it'll get easier and better. So I can't decide that for anybody. You have to decide that. If this is for you, well, you'll know it if you're having fun. And I'm getting messages and emails all the time from people who are saying, I haven't painted this much in years, I love it, I'm having a blast. Then you know this way of working is for you. But even if you're having a hard time, it still might be for you if you can get to the bottom of what the issue is. But when you think that through, if you decide, well, the issue is I just wanted to learn how to make better, more realistic paintings, or, you know, learn a new skill in watercolor, or then you know you've just unfortunately come to the place that isn't for you, and you can forget about it and not be stressed. But please, please don't let this make you unhappy, because it's just a free course. There's no need to let it get to you that way, and it certainly shouldn't shake your confidence. If you decide this isn't for you, it's not about you. You haven't done anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just there's something for everyone. There's a teacher for everyone, or many teachers for everyone. There are classes for everyone in all kinds of different ways of working. So rather than put pressure on yourself and be unhappy, just maybe say, you know what, I don't think this was right for me. And part of the reason I'm saying this is that tomorrow's assignment is a real challenge. So I'm leading you a little bit each day in the direction of letting go and trying new things and taking risks. I'm not going to spoiler alert tomorrow's. I will just say that for some people it's a real release, and for some other people it's a real challenge. And I want you to notice when you read the assignment what feelings come up, and then when you start working on it, what feelings come up. And all you have to do is notice that and document it for yourself. Like you don't even have to document, but notice, be aware. If you are willing to share that with the group, then that'll be really cool, and everyone will be grateful to read it. And some people's responses will be really positive. It's my favorite thing to do, but I realize it's going to be challenging for some people. So all you have to do is notice, and notice where that resistance to it is coming from. And then ask yourself, well, do I want to break through that resistance or not? You might not want to, and that's totally fine. So that's my little lecture, and it ties into the first question, which I want to get to before I look at comments, which was from Lynn. And it's a brilliant question and a really honest question. Lynn's been a freelance wallpaper and furnishing textile designer for 30 years, or was, I presume by the sound of it, you're retired now, Lynn. And she had competitive streak and a need to survive and pay the mortgage. So she said, my fear of producing rubbish means I end up producing work well below the standard I hope I can achieve. She was better at play and experimentation before the course. The reason why she's struggling is because of the competitive side of it, wanting to do well in front of other people. And I loved your question, Lynn. She said she's not sure if she would want to do the full course because it being in a group situation. And there's two ways you can deal with this. The first is you're never forced to be in these group situations, particularly in the full course when every live chat is done via Zoom and Facebook. So you actually don't need to be, I just can't do that in the free course because the cost of Zoom for that many people, it would be astronomical. But in the paid course, it's a much smaller group and we can use Zoom. So people can do the whole course and do without ever being part of a group. I feel like from your comments, Lynn, you might think that's a bit of a cop-out and you might rather get past the issue. I'm reading into what you said when you commented back to somebody else. But I think the way I would deal with that is to just do what you're doing, being aware of it, flagging it up to yourself, and remembering that everything that goes through our head is just a thought. It's not real. So flagging it up, being aware of it, pushing through it, And the reason why I think it's important is I don't think, of course, as being an artist, you don't have to work in a group always. In fact, we all work on our own. But that competitive need to deliver results is going to do to you exactly what I was talking to Barbara about. It's going to stop you from making your best work. And you know that, you've said that in the piece. And it will stop you even when there's no group there. If you start to want to be competitive about selling, it's going to stop you making your best work. So the good thing is that in the environment you're in here, and particularly if you did want to do the full course, which I know you're considering, everybody's in the same boat, and everybody, like I said, the prizes I give out are for risks and failures, not for successes. So maybe that'll help. I'm going to be encouraging that, which means then it becomes the culture of the group, which means it becomes a really safe place. And any of the people who took the course can tell you this. It becomes a really safe place to just post anything. Good, bad, indifferent, rants, tears, happiness, all of it. Because it's all part of when I say find your joy, I don't mean that every moment of our lives as artists is happy, happy, clappy, clappy. It isn't. It's that I think happiness is temporary, and joy is a more deep-seated comfort and pleasure with the life that you're leading. And that comes when you can relax into being truly who you are, which only comes when you can drop the competitive aspect. And I know you know that, and I'm not sure if my answer really helped massively, Lynn, but those are my thoughts about that. I'm just gonna check out comments. Cynthia's painting with more freedom. Simone's doing well. Colleen says every bit is like a piece in the puzzle. It's so hard trying to figure out how to explain quite complicated ideas, and so I do wish I could just put it all into one thing and hand it over to you, but somehow it comes out this way. Julie says, can I work in oils rather than acrylic? Absolutely, you can work in anything you want. The only reason to suggest acrylic is that because we're on a tight time frame, you can work faster and do layers on top quicker. But you can absolutely use anything you want. Lynn asks if I practice mindfulness. I'm just so terrible at staying still and not thinking, so not really, but I really try. I really do try. I just my brain seems to go off. Right, loving all the comments. I'm going to keep going, otherwise you'll be sitting here all night listening to me, because there were a lot of questions. Oh, somehow I've lost them all. What have I done with them all? There they are. There they are. Wendy also has a good question. When painting loose, I find I quickly get to the point where I'm not sure what I can add or adjust. It's so fast, I often tend to keep going and mess it up. Do you have any advice on stopping yourself going too far? My answer to this, Wendy, is always that, well, there's two parts to it. You only know where you want to get to when you know what you want your work to be like. So I don't know your experience level, but you might be worrying about this too soon. But once you know what you want your paintings to feel like, then you know what you're going for. However, having said that, I usually believe when people say they've ruined a painting and gone too far, that actually they haven't gone far enough. So the first loose moves are always fantastic. We love them. They look great, but it's thin. It's not enough. We know it's not enough, so we keep going. Then we get to the ugly middle. But a lot of people think the ugly middle is already past. Oh, I've ruined it. Actually, it just means keep going. You haven't finished yet. If you keep going, something will come out of it, but only when you really know what you want to do. And I don't mean by that you know you want to paint that vase of flowers over there. I mean, for example, I know I want my landscapes to feel bold and dramatic and impactful from a distance, but also impactful when you get close up and find little secrets in them. I've worked that out over a few years. That is not something I just came up with. It just comes gradually. So now that I know that, I know when I've not gone far enough. It's not bold enough, it's not impactful enough, or it is bold and impactful, but when you get up close, there are no little surprises for you to find. Because I know generally what I'm going for, even though I have no idea what each painting is going to look like, composition, colour, etc., I know what I want overall. So knowing what you want is one part, and knowing to keep going when you think you're finished, when you think you've got to the ugly part, is another. Janet had written this question. Loving the course, but as the course is about joy, how do I find joy with my pencil when I draw? I paint and either trace or grid up to get the basic sketch to paint. My aim for years has been to actually sit and draw a sketch without fear and feel joy. Now, I do actually have a suggestion for you of some classes, Janet, online classes with a place called Sketchbook School. I don't know if you know that. It's Sketchbook and then SKOOL, and it's run by an artist called Danny Gregory, and it's all about drawing. And his online classes are reasonably priced. You do them at your own pace. They're not taught in person like mine, but they're really good artists teaching lots of different choices of classes, and it's all about joyful drawing. But somebody else recommended a book that I enjoyed when I was drawing by Betty Edwards. And somebody will say in the comments what the title is, Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain or something. Betty Edwards drawing book, just put that in Google. And that's a really good book full of fun exercises. But the way to feel joyful with drawing is exactly the same way as with everything else. Stop trying to make everything perfect. Stop worrying about getting it wrong. Stop thinking that if you make a bad drawing, it means something about you. That's what we do. We think, I made a bad painting, that means something about me. I'm not talented. I'm rubbish. I shouldn't be doing this. Don't mean any of those things. It just means you made a bad painting. Everybody makes bad paintings. So it's exactly the same with drawing. You have to let go, let yourself be yourself. There's all sorts of fun exercises you can do. Blind contour drawing, you don't look at your paper at all while you're drawing whatever it is you're drawing. You get fantastic fun drawings that way. Drawing with the wrong hand, drawing with a pencil tied to a long stick, and then standing far back from paper and drawing that way. And I'm sure other people have lots of suggestions for you. But where you were told at school that you were no good at art, I think you're saying, and we're a long way from school now, and they were stupid. So forget them and just find ways to enjoy it. If you're sitting there very tightly drawing and gridding up, and that doesn't sound much fun to me, and I don't know why you would want to do it if it's not fun. So if you just let yourself off the hook and stop trying to make everything perfect, all of a sudden you'd be free to have fun and try new things. Like try drawing with really thick pencils where you can't possibly be detailed, like those graphite sticks that are really thick on the end, or try doing some stuff in colour pencils to bring something different to it, or try drawing with paint and see what happens there. Just see what happens. That's my motto. Eleanor and Rowena had questions about the full course, and I just want to address, I know Libby already answered this in the comments. I will be getting into that, and you will have time to decide, but I just want to keep this time free of any of that. The 10-week course is like the most important thing to me that I do all year, and I really do want to make sure you understand what it is so that you can select yourself in or out based on whether you think it's for you. But I don't want to muddle up what we're doing here and bore people who have no interest in carrying on with details about that. What I can tell you though, Eleanor, to your question, is it will be happening starting on July the 6th, and there will be a welcome call on Zoom on July the 3rd for everyone who's taking that course. Rowena asked if it was suitable for beginners, and again, it depends what you want. So hopefully my conversation at the beginning helps you to sort yourself out whether it's for you or not. If you want to learn all the how-tos of painting? Probably not. The one thing I will say I'm really excited about that came out of a comment on the last call, somebody had made a comment, would I show the way I paint? Would I show? And I always say, no, I don't teach the way I paint, I teach the way you paint. And then it came to me, as soon as I got off that last call, there is a way I could do that, which would be fun, which would be, instead of, I don't want to say paint like me, we're all going to sit down and make a painting that looks like mine. That would be so boring for everybody and it wouldn't get you anywhere. However, if I almost bring you into my studio and film all the different elements that go into the way I paint and all the different techniques I use, some of those might spark ideas for you, just like we've been doing with the different tools and the different colors. Seeing me do something might spark an idea in you of a way you could use it in your own work. So that's going to be part of the 10-week course. Every week I'm going to add another video and you're basically going to watch me develop paintings. And I'm not holding anything back on that. So that, thanks to whoever made that comment, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of who it was, but it was very helpful. So Linda's struggling to get rid of old mindsets, and she asked me what inspires my painting. She said, you seem grounded and down to earth, but your paintings suggest a more ethereal side. What inspires your paintings? So the landscape around my home, but more specifically my connection to it. I had quite nomadic adulthood, in the sense that when I was about 23, I left England and we went to live in Canada, and then we moved to America, and we didn't come home until I was 50. And I never really created in all that time away. It was only when we got home that I started to want to create again, and I realized that it's my connection to this place and the fact that I feel at home here, and that's related to some stuff in my childhood and childhood holidays and all sorts of things. But so that sense of joy and connection that I feel in the countryside around me is what inspires my paintings, and that's why they are not as grounded and down to earth as I seem. I am grounded and down to earth in some ways, but I am quite emotional, and I think all that emotional side of me goes into the paintings. Yuan, but you said, I love your style, but seem incapable of producing something like it. You are so not incapable. You're incapable of producing something like mine, because you're going to produce something like Linda's. But what that is yet, we don't know. And the way to get there, the only way, I think on Sunday, you're going to get a video where I show you some of my old work and talk about the process of the changes that I went through. And you'll see how much it's changed. And the only way I got there is exactly what I'm showing you. Loosening up and always following the joy. What felt good to do more of that. What felt bad, don't ever do that again. And gradually, as you do that, you develop your own visual language. You develop your own style just by choosing the things you like and leaving behind the things you don't. So I hope that helps. Isabella says, on a stretch canvas, so she never knows whether she should go to the edge or over the sides. Sometimes I go over the sides in air and it looks messy. My sides are a nightmare. So what I do is I get off as much of that paint as I can at the end, and I paint them, the sides. I usually choose a light colour from the painting and then paint the sides. Even if it's going in a frame, I still do that. Penelope wants to explore colour more. Should I buy cheap paints and paper? And somebody gave a great answer to this, but I wanted to answer it on the call just for other people are thinking the same thing. To explore colour, never buy cheap paints, because they don't have the same pigment load in them. So you won't be able to explore colour because you're not getting proper colours. Better to have a few colours, like you saw me in the colour mixing video. Even if you only spend money on 3 primaries, black and white, and you could even measure that black, I just like black. Even if you just did 3 primaries and a white for now, and buy the best quality paint you can afford, paper can be cheap. That doesn't matter for practicing and exploring. And people have been suggesting wallpaper lining paper, which I'm going to investigate because that sounds really good. But so I would say you can be cheap on the paper when you're exploring colour, but not on the paints. And for anybody who wants to really explore the colour mixing and wants a suggested limited palette, a few people email me about that. My suggested is always a warm and a cool of each of the primaries. Well, anyone will tell you that. The ones I would suggest, but everyone's got personal tastes, I would suggest alizarin crimson, which is a cool red, cad red medium, which is a warm red, lemon yellow or Hansa yellow, cool yellow, cad yellow medium, cadmium yellow medium, which is warm, and then ultramarine blue and cerulean blue, which is a warm and a cool blue, and then black and white. And out of that, you can have infinite array of colours, and you never need any more. Pauline can loosen up with the initial sketch and then get a huge what next wall, and she gets tighter and tighter. So what's happening is, the reason you can be loose with the sketch, and you probably know this, is that you don't care at that point. It's just a sketch, you're not bothered. The further on you go, the more attached you get to a result, the more you get tight. So your challenge, Pauline, is going to be to let go of that desire for a result. And this might sound like I'm saying you're never going to make a painting again. It's the opposite, actually. When you relax, just like you see with your initial sketches being great and interesting, when you relax and stop pushing to finish painting so quickly, you will find that you make great paintings. It's that simple. So I'm not telling you to never make a good painting. I'm telling you to stop trying to make a good painting. Lucy's struggling with the Stay Wet palette. The tracing paper ripped, and my tracing paper rips all the time. So I use either baking paper or tracing paper, and they both rip, and I just get new piece, and I scrape. I carry on as long as I can, and then I scrape off the paint onto a new piece. I don't think there's any other way around it, but I do have several of those trays and loads of kitchen rolls. So if I need to make 3 or 4 palettes, I can, and then leave the one where it's ripped. Yeah, so Chrissy had the same question as I've just answered about getting stuck. It's all about, notice how easy it is at the beginning because you don't care, and notice how you get tied up at the end because you do care. So you've just got to practice. And one of the great things to do when you're getting really tight is to just come over it with a big swoosh of something, or scribble all over it with pencil, or do something to disrupt what you've done so that you have to react to it. Often when I leave a painting, when it's only, say, halfway through and I'm leaving it for the night, I might do something really horrible on it before I go, because then I'll have to deal with it when I come back in. And stuck on how to cope with the background, subject first or after background, or a bit of both. Well, since I don't paint that way, I paint in so many layers that I wouldn't even be able to tell you what the background is. So I'm not much help, and I'm sorry, other people will have opinions about that. My instant thought would be, it'd be much easier to paint the background and then come in and paint whatever you're doing on top. However, everything in a painting affects everything else. So after you've painted what you think is the background you want, and then you paint the person or still life or whatever on top of it, you're going to want to adjust the background to make it balanced and look good with what you've done in the foreground. So you're always going to be a bit of both. Sue asked about what sort of boards I paint on. I paint on birch plywood. So you can buy panels from art supply shops. They'll usually be made in birch ply. You can buy MDF panels from some suppliers, but I don't like MDF. It can swell if water gets into the sides of it. And I also buy birch plywood from the hardware store, or I used to before it became a nightmare to go there. We have a local lumber yard, and now it's a nightmare because there's builders lined up. They're only allowing so many people in at once, and you can't get in. But I used to go get it from there and have it cut to the sizes that I wanted. And birch ply is very smooth and really nice to work on. How can I save leftover mixed paint? It seems a waste to clean it up and bin it. So Sue, I always, because I have the Stay Wet palette, I just leave it. And because I'm always working in a limited palette, I can always use that paint the next day on the paintings I'm working on. But if you are going to bin it, I would use it in a sketchbook, or often people have a couple of throwaway paintings where this is a really nice idea actually that I got from someone else. But I was taking a workshop, and the teacher had us do, this was early on in my painting, and she was really an influential teacher on me in this 2-day workshop. And what she did is she had us do 3 paintings at once. And she said, those 2 are the ones you care about, that one you're not bothered about. So the 3rd canvas was just for don't care. And of course, the 3rd canvas was often the best one for most people in the class. But that's what I would do with the leftover paint, is I would have a I don't care painting and then use that paint on there before you stop. Joe's having problems. Somebody else might know more about this, but Joe's having problem sticking textured materials like thick paper, cardboard, and netting onto her panel or canvas or paper or whatever to paint on top of. She found that gloss medium was not good for sticking things that were heavy down. Now I've never done that. My collage materials are always quite thin, so I just use gloss medium. I know some people use PVA, not like the PVA you buy in the stationery shop for school kids, but proper PVA from the hardware store. Also, I know people who use wood glue, but I'm sure other people are going to have some good suggestions for you on that. Alison had a nice question. She wants to know about building up layers. So I mixed a beautiful orange, and I showed in the video that I might use it in a painting I'm working on. And she said, how could if I wanted to paint that over a dark area, wouldn't I lose that wonderful clear orange glow? And yes, absolutely I would. So what I have to do if I want to go over a dark area is then first either collage. Sometimes I collage over with paper if I'm in a rush and I don't want to mess about. So I could collage with white paper and then paint that orange onto that. More likely what I would do is paint a light color over a dark area, wait for it to dry, and then come in and put my orange on. Because you're right, you can't it's quite a transparent orange, that one. It's not going to work just over dark. And Suzanne, the reason why I do the tray and the wet kitchen roll on the parchment paper is to keep the paints from drying up, because that means I never waste any paint. As long as I keep coming in and watering my towels, so keep wetting those kitchen towels every day, that paint will last. I don't know how long. I've never had it not last. So that's why I do that. Question from Sasha. Wants to work on huge canvases. When I get a colour I like and I want to keep it, is there a way of storing it? Is there a way of diluting the paint so I get the same depth with the extra coverage? And you got a great answer from, I think, Lynn, who said you can put in like a soft gel or a gloss medium or any kind of acrylic medium into paint, and you can extend it. One of my artist friends is a golden artist educator, so for golden paints, and she told me what she does is she buys golden fluid paints and then she puts in a thick medium so she can mix it to the consistency that she wants. And she told me she can use a 50-50 ratio without losing any of the color. So basically she extends every tub of expensive golden paint by 50% by doing that. But as Lynn said, you have to know what kind of consistency you want to be getting to, and before you can do that. So she starts with fluid paint. Other people might start with heavy body paint and then add something fluid to it to make it last longer, but you can extend them quite a bit. Is there a way of storing it? People use all sorts of things like takeaway containers, plastic little takeaway containers. I sometimes use tomato ketchup bottles, the ones that tip upside, that stand upside down. They're quite good because they have a wide top. And my last question that was a pre-question was from Anna, who and this is a really good question, but I'm afraid there is no answer, Anna. Anna says, how do you avoid a misinterpretation of a painting or limit giving it a negative, painful, hurtful impact? She tried to paint something hopeful, but it ended up making someone else feel sad, which wasn't my intention. And there really is no way you can, I mean, I suppose you can title a painting in a way that leads people towards what you hope they'll get out of it, but people will get out of a painting whatever they want to get out of it. I've had people compliment my seascapes before, and I've never painted a seascape in my life. I live about as far from the sea as it's possible to live in England, but people see what they want to see, and or what their life has trained them to see. And as artists, we cannot control that, so we can just do what we want to express, and then put it out into the world. And sometimes, who knows, people might be seeing something in our work that we're not even aware of, but they're picking up on it. I mean, we just don't know. All we can do is our best, and then hope for the best. So I'm sorry, I know that's not a brilliant answer, but it really is the only one, I think. Heavy gel medium is great for sticking things down, apparently. Melissa, yes, the Stay Wet palette you need to look for in the announcements. Actually, it'd be easier on any of your emails if you go in Thursday's lesson email. If you click on Thursday's lesson, you will see that there is at the bottom a list of things that happened, that have already happened, and there's a link to a video about acrylics, beginner's guide to acrylics, and my Stay Wet palette is in there. I'm just having a quick look. When you work on wood, I presume you gesso it first. I do. When I work on wood, I seal it first with I seal it with gloss medium, actually, to stop the panel getting damp, water getting into the panel and it warping, and then I put a coat of gesso on. I just do one, although I know lots of people do more. Some people like to put gesso on to make texture, which they can then paint over. I don't do that. I don't gesso canvas because I buy them pre-done. Everybody's got all sorts of good suggestions for... no, I paint directly onto the wood, Vanessa, not on canvas. How do you hang the plywood after finished? So I use what are called cradle panels. So on the back, it's a flat sheet of plywood, but it has what would you call it, a frame all the way around the back. And that means that it's about half an inch thick, and that hangs onto the wall. But I actually frame them as well. So you can also frame flat plywood into a nice frame. Plastic boxes from takeout food. Yeah, I like those for storing. Can you make transparent paint more opaque so you don't have to buy different kinds of paint? Yes, but not without changing the colour of it, because anything you put in it, you'd have to put a more opaque colour in, and then you would change the colour of your transparent paint. I use Mars Black, Jane, but I've got no reason for that. It's just what I've always had. Just checking any more comments. Yeah, Michelle uses GAC 100 beneath the gesso, which is the same as using gloss medium. So it's just something that seals the wood thoroughly. And I do 2 coats of that on a big panel because I've had a big panel warp. The smaller ones are not a problem. Do you need to fix a completed acrylic painting? I like the ha 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 on completed, Jane. You don't need to fix it, but not everybody even seals or varnishes. I seal mine with gloss medium because I like to bring the colours out, and then I put a cold wax finish on the top, which I'm not going to get into here, but that creates a nice finish. Other people just varnish. And you don't actually have to do either, but if the painting's going to be behind glass, you really don't need to. You can get UV protection glass if you don't put something over it with UV protection and it gets hung in the sun, then it will fade over time. Oh, sorry, it's so hard to go through all the comments, and people are answering, which is great, but then I can't find any tips for how to title paintings. Lynn, what I like to do is, I'm not really good at coming up with titles myself, but I jot things down in my sketchbook. So lines from songs. There's a line from a song by the band Doors. The song is called Too Green to Be Blue. This woman is telling him that he's too young to be miserable, so she says, "You're too green to be blue." And I keep thinking, oh, that would make a good title, but it never fits any of my paintings. So things like that I'll write down. I sometimes go into poetry books and just look for phrases. And sometimes people say things and I think, oh, that'd make a good title. So I have a collection, a long list, and then when I need to come up with titles, sometimes the title just comes to me when I'm getting close to the end, but if it doesn't, I might go through that list and see if I can come up with something. I do think titles, I personally think they're really important because I think they add an extra dimension to a painting. And I think it should be something interesting. So, especially if you're doing realistic painting, let's say, oh, I'm trying to think of a good example now. If you had a painting of a farmer in a field, standing surveying his crop of sheep, if you called it farmer in a field, that's not adding anything to the painting because we can see from his flat cap, if you're in Yorkshire, and his leaning on the gatepost and his farmery clothes, that he's a farmer in a field. But if you called it something that told that gave hint of a little story of that farmer's life and why he's looking at those sheep, then it would make a much more interesting. It's like having a mini painting in the title, I think. So I think titles are important. Claire, I get my boards either from Jackson's for the small ones, which is a UK supplier, or I have them made if they're larger from a joiner that lives near me who makes the larger ones because he makes them more solid than they do and they don't have there's less chance they'll warp. I have so many sketchbooks you wouldn't believe, all sorts, and they never finish them. They're a mess. There's all sorts in them. Will the links be still active after the course is over? So in the emails that I've been sending out, I've been saying that everything will be up until June 29th. After June 29th, what will happen is all this content from the free course goes into the full paid course. For anybody taking that course can keep revisiting this stuff, but it goes away until I do this again. I have to do that, otherwise there would be nothing to it next time when I want to do it again. Do you know the name of the medium your artist friend uses with her golden fluid paint? I'm afraid not. I was looking it up earlier and Facebook wasn't playing with me, so I couldn't find her message. But I believe it's soft gel medium, which I think is the thicker one. I'm sure if you Google that, you can find an answer. Mixing white. If you want a mixing white, Judy, something a bit more transparent, people recommend zinc white. I don't have any, but okay, I think I'm just going through answers now. Bonnie, I seal the front, the back, the sides, and all over. I don't actually bother with little 12-inch panels and smaller. I just gesso those. I gesso all over. But anything larger than that, I seal all over because I've just had too many warping issues. Yes, Shay says the Golden website has loads of info. So yes, it does. Golden Paints have an amazing website with all sorts of information and a helpline where you can call and ask any question. What would you say to a really new artist who don't have any style yet, Susan? That's what this whole course is about. That's what everything about what I'm teaching is. I would say follow what feels good, experiment, play, follow what feels really good, and do more of that. avoid doing anything that you didn't enjoy. And that's how you will eventually get to a style. But you don't get to a style by trying to get to a style. You get to a style by painting lots and learning lots and trying lots of things. What is a warm red acrylic? I use cadmium red. You can get cad red light, medium, and dark. So if I was buying limited colors, I would buy the medium. Oh, Linda, titles from black and white movies. That's a good idea. Glass mat and frame over paper paintings. Yes, I do that. The integrity of mat is a concern. Well, if you're framing, getting them framed properly, they should be framing with archival mats. But I don't really worry about all that stuff. I can't imagine my stuff is going to be around long enough that I have to worry about that. Question, when teaching your course, do you find that actually some of the students spark something for you too? Can it be reciprocal? Absolutely. All the time. All the time. That's why I love doing this. I'm not teaching everybody in Find Your Joy because I'm the best painter in the world. I just happen to have some good methods to help people free up and get in touch with their own authentic voice. When they do that, they start making really inspiring work, and then that's an inspiration to me. And then I get ideas for colors or techniques or tools from other people. So absolutely. You made white scratch marks on your painting. That was Saral transfer paper. You don't like green, Louise, so I don't think you'll ever use the lyric. No, you're right. It was the D-A-W-E-S, not the Doors, but D-A-W-E-S. How long do you wait before varnish a finished painting? Well, I usually wait till I'm finished a whole series and then varnish them all at once. No, I don't give a certificate of authentication. I sign them on the back. I write a little message about the painting on the back, kind of a little story about the painting, and a sticker on the back with some information. But I think we're miles away from that at the moment. Farmer is called Coming Home. Is that a painting you know, Vanessa, or just your suggestion? Judy, they will be active until the 29th of June. Gloss medium, Carol, you get from any art supplier, literally anywhere. Golden make it, Liquitex make it, probably other people make it too. Apparently, yes, Sea White's do good cradle panels at good prices. Griselda, the details for the paid course will come on Tuesday when we're done with this. So when we're done with this, on Tuesday evening, I have a last presentation for you. The last lesson is on Monday. I have another presentation for you Tuesday night, just like this, where I want to wrap up some ideas and hopefully inspire the people who are going to go off and start working on their own. And after we're done with that final presentation, I'll invite anybody to stay on the call who wants to hear about the paid course, and we'll talk about it and we'll have a chat then. An email will go out to you that evening, and then I'll be around. I'll be sending you bits of information all week, and I'll also be around in the group all week to answer questions from anybody who's interested. And the cost of the course, the length of the course, the things we're going to cover, all that will come. Just checking comments. Golden is so expensive. Yes, it is. I don't buy very much of it at all. It's just particularly in the UK, it's really expensive. I was looking at one colour, and I like to buy decent sized tubs because I use a lot of paint. So I was looking at like a 500ml tub. I can't remember the colour now, but it was £78 for a tub, and I didn't buy it. I am so inspired by the quotes. I really want to make those into abstract paintings. I just don't understand how to start. Can you give me any tips? Yes, do the things that I'm suggesting. So do the kind of exercises that we're doing here. Follow what feels good. identify what feeling you want to communicate, try ideas out to do that. I was watching something with another artist, two artists in conversation the other day, and one of them has an idea she's trying to develop, and she has done so many pieces of work trying to develop this idea, and she hasn't got there yet, and they were discussing ways she might get to where she wants to go. Just have to try it. You have to keep going, and you have to keep learning. Yep. Okay. I will. Will we be able to continue communicating with you after June 29th? So I'm always creating stuff, Cheryl. I do a podcast. I do blog posts. I have videos. And the people taking the full course will be with me for however long, 10 weeks. But I do get a lot of emails, and I cannot answer everyone individually. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, so you can follow me and we can stay in touch that way. Anne says that I've picked her up. Good. Alizarin Crimson Hue will be fine. Absolutely fine. It is good for mixing. Is it good for mixing? Yes, because it's a cooler red, so it will give you different shades of things like purple than a warm red will. You don't use acrylic gloss medium to seal oil paint, Leslie, because acrylic things won't stick to oil, but there is something, I'm sure, similar. I just have no idea about oil paint, I'm sorry. Yellow paints, lemon yellow and Hansa yellow, one or the other is cool, and cadmium yellow medium for warm. I answered the paintbrush question in the acrylics video, so have a look for that. The second blue, ultramarine blue and cerulean blue. Julie, if I'm away for part of the 10 weeks, yes, you can always catch up, because the 10-week course, everyone has access for a year, and the group stays together and you can talk to people. So, but we'll get into all that next week. Okay, I'm going to have to go now because I'm keeping everyone too long. I'll come back and check in on questions I missed. Lynn, no, there's no way to take the 10-week course later because it's intensive with me. So I do it once a year, and actually it might be once this year and then not next year and then the year after. I'm not sure. I might really would like a year just to work on my own work. But I haven't decided that yet. Anita, you said what, but I'm not sure what you're asking. Sorry. Okay, we've done some of the paint brands before. Other people have answered that, so I'll let people jump in and answer that. Claire, I work on quite a lot at once, about 10 to 12. No, the lining on the Stay Wet palette, you don't need to cover it up. I used to put cling film over it thinking I needed to cover it up. In my studio, it stays wet overnight, so I could wet it, say halfway through the afternoon. It'll still be damp in the morning. I will need to wet it again in the morning. Partly depends how dry your environment is. Where do I find the podcast? Barbara, there was a link in today's email. So if you didn't get today's email, just have a look in your inbox for that, because it would have come in. However, people are asking about the membership site and saying it's £9 a month. It's not £9 a month anymore, but anyway. I've forgotten what I was answering now. The questions are moving so fast. Yes, the podcast. You can just Google Art Juice, the podcast, and you will come to either my website or Alice's website, or you can look on louisefletcherart.com, and along the top of the menu there's a section for artists, and podcast is listed under there, and all the prior episodes are there. And of everything I've ever done, I think maybe the podcast is my favorite, the thing I'm most proud of. I think it really is very good, even though I say so myself, and that's because Alice is an amazing partner to do it with. Anne said, go get a glass of wine. I'm exhausted just looking at all the questions. Sennelier paint's very good. Yes, I agree. I like those, the Sennelier pouches, and I like the way the paint comes out of them. It's easy not to waste. Okay, I am going to, well, I'm I don't need to send an email with the primary colours. I don't want to overwhelm people with emails because they're in the comments here. People have written them up several times, so maybe just have a look there. Katie, you might not have been able to access the podcast from the link this morning because there was an issue with the website for about 10 minutes. And if you were on at that point, you wouldn't have got it. Try that link again, and I think you'll find it there. There is an app for podcasts. There are several. If you have an iPhone, you have an app already on your phone. It's a little purple. What colour is it? It's purple, and it's got a little man. I'm going to hold this up, but I'm sure you can't see. It's got like a little white, it's that thing there, that one. Little white circles going around. That's a podcast app, and every podcast is on that. Also Spotify. There are all sorts of, something called Anchor. There are all sorts of free apps you can listen to podcasts on. And they're just great. There are lots I listen. Kate says, I'm working full-time. Can I fit the 10-week course in? Absolutely. Most people are working full-time. The 10-week course goes at a much more gentle pace than this. I don't email you a new assignment every 2 days. We work on one thing for a week and we go really deep on it. And so you have plenty of time. And so, I've taken courses like similar length where I did them in the evening or early morning because I was working. No, Sue, no one's cooking my supper for me. My husband's cooking is not something anybody wants to eat, so I'm making my own dinner. Well, I'm making my tea, as we say here in the north, shortly. Oh, how was Alice's at-home tour? I bet it was brilliant. I've just double booked myself. I got her email with all her paintings, like a private view for people who are on a newsletter list, and there was one I really loved, but someone had bought it already, so I was out of luck. Sheila wants me to write a book. Do you know what's funny? I got asked to do that just before the lockdown by this small publisher, and I thought, oh, what a great idea, and I was really into it, and then I just don't think I can find the time. Maybe next year. Jennifer loves the podcast. Sheila loves the podcast. Susan loves the podcast. Lorna loves the podcast. Still can't find acrylics for beginners. Can somebody please point Lynn to acrylics for beginners, because I can't type and do this at the same time. If somebody could manage to give her the link, that would be amazing. Cheryl, until the 29th, everything will be available. We should go on Woman's Hour, says SJ. I'm not sure about Woman's Hour. Do you think we should? I'm having trouble getting a good purple. I'm using Naphthol Red. I don't know that one, and Phthalo Blue. I think these are both cool. I don't know Naphthol Red. Somebody else could tell you. Purple's difficult one to mix. Do you have any other reds and blues, or are those the only two you have? Because the thing is, you will always have difficulty getting a very specific kind of colour with only, like I'm saying, mix with a limited palette of one of each primary. That's fine, but you won't be able to get all the colours in the world from those three. You can get as many colours as those three can make, but if you're looking for a very specific purple, those are obviously not the right colours for that. Knowing whether your purple is too warm or too cool for what you want is part of the way to finding what you need. And by the way, we're all talking about Art Juice, and all the people who love it, if you haven't voted for us yet, let me just tell you where you can go, since I may as well get you to pay me back. If you think I've done a good job on the course, you could pay me back by voting for Art Juice. How's that? In the British Podcast Awards. I don't suppose we have the faintest chance of winning, because I suppose we're up against all sorts of big podcasts. But it would be really nice if we could come like as you know, one of the runners up or something. So I'm trying to get my website to load so I can tell you where you need to go. You just need to go to britishpodcastawards.com/vote. And when you go to that link, and the link to that is on let me start again. On my website, when you go look for the podcast, there's a link there, but it's britishpodcastawards.com/vote. And all you have to do is go there, type in Art Juice, it will pull up our podcast and you vote for us. That would be a really nice thing for you to do for us if you are able. Right, I am going to let everyone go. I will check back at the comments and see if there's any questions that I missed. I'm sure there are, but thank you very much. I have this assignment for you tomorrow. Try not to freak out. If it freaks you out, you don't have to do it. But it is good fun, and sometimes it brings some really good surprises. Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.